Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Scotty Paints. It's December 31st, 2019, New Year's Eve, getting ready to go into 2020, and today we're going to paint the last painting for myself for the year of 2019. Now, what I'm going to paint today is going to be a companion piece to a painting that I did a couple of days ago. Now, I didn't record anything on this painting, but let me show you what it was. So this is a painting I did about 3 days ago. Yeah, it was an experiment, like most of the paintings that I'm doing. I painted this in acrylics using Golden Open. Disclaimer, I don't work for Golden. I am playing around with their acrylic paints because they have a very slow dry time, which allows for blending and mixing, and unlike other acrylic paints that you have to use an extender in order to get another 5-10 minutes out of them, the Golden Open have a slower dry time. So you get more time to do closer to what would be a wet on wet if you were doing oil, but not exactly the same. The texture, the feel of the paints is different than if you were playing with oils. But I painted this in acrylics following the Bob Ross Black Seascape, which was season 12, episode 5. And so I'm going to paint a companion piece to that today. And the one that I've picked is the from Bob Ross's season 3, episode 8. It's called Nightlight. And I've selected this to be a companion piece to go along with the one. I'm going to do some changes to it. Bob Ross used a lot of alizarin crimson and cadmium yellow up there in the sky for a glow around the lighthouse for a dramatic effect. I'm not going to go with those colors because in real life, lighthouses have a bright white light. They're not yellow. They are bright white, and they are shuttered. They have cutouts around as it spins around, so that what happens is you get different flashes of light. So in other words, you might see a light for 2 seconds. You might see a light, and then 2 to 3 seconds later see another light, and then 1.5 or 4 seconds later see the next light. And so you get a delay. So you get 3, 2, 4, something like that in seconds, which if you're on board ship and you're out there and you're along the coast and you see the lighthouse, you can time the lights and you can figure out from the nautical charts which lighthouse that is, and it helps you to triangulate where you're actually located in reference to the shore and rocks and hazards and things like that. So they were bright white lights. They had to shine a great distance. So I'm going to be using white instead of the cadmium yellow light and the alizarin crimson. I'm going to be doing something that will fit more and more in line with the color scheme that I used on this painting from a couple of days ago. So let me show you what I have. Let's go up to the canvas. I'll bring up the canvas view. This is also going to be an oval, and I've got some wrinkles. I'm going to have to watch those. This is what happens when you are improvising and using inexpensive materials like shelf paper that has a low tack to it, and it's vinyl and it's stretchy, and it doesn't like to be cut. But it's working okay for me. So I've got the horizon line set up here because I want a nice straight horizon. I don't want to make the mistake I made with the seascape I did earlier this year, where I thought I had a straight horizon, and when I got up and stood back away from it, I realized I was actually going down at an angle. And I was like, no, that's not right. I was going to go back and fix it, and I decided not to. I just figured, lesson learned, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to work on the sky up here first. So let's go to the palette. I'll show you what I'm using today. And today's palette, I'm using Golden Open and Heavy Body Acrylics. Actually, I think they're all open. I don't think I have anything heavy body in here, now that I think about it. But titanium white, Prussian blue, phthalo green, cadmium yellow medium, Van Dyke brown. And then if I need black, I'll use the Liquitex Mars Black, because I just have this really big, huge tube of it that I bought not too long ago before I started using all the golden, and I wasn't going to go out and buy a golden black because this works just fine. So it has a shorter drying time. You mix it in with other golden colors and you extend the drying time of that. But you can see that I've got my colors over here. These are all the colors that I used the other day. And if I was to go and, so these are from 3 days ago. You can see how that's still a good viable paint. That's, you know, that paint color is, that's the Prussian blue. That's still wet and available. I'm going to need some more titanium white down here, but these other colors I have, they're still good. So I'm using the same palette that I have because I want this as a reference to maintain continuity between this and the other one. Okay, open acrylic gel. I am going to use this. I'm going to put this on the top and the bottom. This is going to be the equivalent to if you were using, if you were in oils and painting in oils, you decided you wanted to use, you know, instead of the liquid clear or liquid or something like that in order to get a nice smooth slick surface, as Bob Ross would say. I'm going to use this, and I used it the other day. It's not exactly the same as if you were painting with a in oils using the liquid clear. It's not exactly the same, but it does a good job of extending the drying time even more, allowing for good mixing. I like the way it worked. One of the things I find in using acrylics with their extended drying times, and as compared to the oils, is that when you're painting in oils, I mean, it's, Bob Ross would say, yeah, but he has a nice slick surface, and it is slick. Your brushes glide. After a while, even this gel starts to, well, it starts to gel up and gets a little sticky and tacky, and so you get a little bit of resistance. But I've gotten pretty good at getting used to getting over that, getting around it. And so I'm just putting this on there. When it goes on, you'll see that you can see it. It's white. You might think I'm putting on white paint. I'm not. It's a gel. This is going to clear out as I get it on the canvas, get an even distribution. I'm not going to do down here. The reason I'm not going to do it on here yet is because this gel will start to dry and tack up. And when I come down to paint the ocean, the waves and everything, I don't want it to be tacky. I want it to be slick. So that's why I'm going to do the sky first. And then when it's time to do the lower half for the ocean waves crashing on the shore and the rocks, I'll remove the horizon tape. I'll put down the gel for down there, and we'll move into that. So let's get this on here. All right. There we go. So I got a nice good coating on there. And you're going to see that as it starts to dry and tack up, it's going to go, you won't see it as much. It's going to fade into the black of the gessoed canvas. All right. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down some background color so we can do clouds and things like that. I'm going to put down the phthalo blue. That's what I used the other day, was phthalo blue. Okay. We're going to get this on here. Get the blue on here. Not going to put it everywhere. I'm going to leave some spots. Well, I don't want to dull out all that black. All right. Let's get our titanium white. Start working on some clouds. First thing I want to do is I'm going to The lighthouse is going to be right about here. It's going to be a small lighthouse. The land's going to be down here. So the glow from the lighthouse is going to be right about here. So I'm going to do this and work my way out, just like you would if you were working in oils and following the Bob Ross tutorial. Notice that as I move out, it's actually fading off, getting into the blue, getting darker naturally. I want to be careful. I don't want to go in excuse me for a second. Coffee time. So I'm going to wash the fan brush because I want to bring a little bit more white into the center. And just like you would if you were working in oils, you don't want to drag a dirty brush back into where you would dull up and, as Bob would say, mud up. I want something a little brighter here. We'll see if we can do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to blend this. I have a round blending brush, not a flat blending brush that I'm using. I bought this earlier this year. I've been using it. It does what I want it to do. Comes in handy. Does the blending that I want. I'm going to start here in the center and work out. And you want to be ever so light. You can see that there's actually, as I'm blending, I'm actually pulling off some of the paint. It goes onto the brush. That's natural. And some of the black is coming through. That's okay. You can always go in and add more. Once again, as you're blending out, don't come back into the center. Okay, we'll do that. It'll go into the water while I'm waiting. We'll go back to the fan brush. Bring in some more titanium, fresh titanium white for the center here. Brighten this up a bit. This is where the light from the lighthouse is going to be. Get the brush cleaned out here. One thing about these big heavy mop brushes, they're a very soft brush. They have a lot of hairs. They hold a lot of water. So your paper towels are going to get soaked really quick. So make sure you have plenty of paper towels on hand. Okay. Having some color out here at the edge also helps to define the oval when we go to pull off the mask. So that'll be nice. All right. So we've got the... Now we're going to do some clouds. can see that with that gel it is quite, it's slick. And you can see how the brush strokes are. Squeezing out as much water as I can because I don't want a really wet brush. I want to draw as dry a brush as possible. And if this isn't dry enough, I do have another blender brush I can bring in here. I'm holding off on it until we get down to the lower half. Okay. Now, one thing about these big mop brushes as opposed to a flat blender brush, you can see some loose hairs get up there and give you little eyelashes. I'm going to bring in just a little bit of black. I want to get some work on the shadowing on the clouds. So we're going to bring some black in. Okay, I think we've got a stormy looking clouds. Don't like this bright blue right here, but we'll let it go for now. All right. So that didn't take too long. We're about 30 minutes into painting. So that's not too bad. All right. remove the tape down here, reveal our horizon line. Okay, I recorded a nice introduction to this video, only to realize that when I was done, I had no audio. And I wasn't about to go do it again because I wanted to get started on the painting. Okay. So, almost looks like we got some raining going on over here. I'm just going to pull this straight down. Trying to come up with a analog that's similar to oils with acrylics is just, just having paints that take longer to dry doesn't always do it. How the paints react with each other, how they react with the mediums, what happens over time with acrylic. You just don't really, even with these slow drying paints, things are happening that change the reaction of it. Okay. May have to dry this and come back and do some adjustment on that. We'll see. We shall see. All right. Let's get the bottom gelled up. Now, a lot of times in acrylic painting, you wouldn't be doing this. You'd have your gel medium and you'd mix it in with the paints and then do your blending, but I'm experimenting, trying something different. I'm learning. If this doesn't work as the way I want it to, and I fail, well, I've learned something. And you have too. All right, the next thing we want to do is get the Prussian blue down. So this Prussian blue I'm putting down, it's been sitting on the palette for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, today's Wednesday, 3 days. 3 days. And it's still a good, viable paint. I'm not wasting any paint. Now it's interesting, I can see that I'm actually pulling some of the gesso up because I'm getting some gray over here. That's okay. All right. So there we go. Time to start doing some waves. So if we, all right. So here's our reference photo. Other than the bright yellow and alizarin crimson, now we need to start working on putting in our waves and that. So we're going to start at the back. We're going to work forward. We're going to have our highlights here from the coming down this way, and then we'll start putting in some waves. So the thing is that I've had a chance to see waves like this out in the middle of the ocean in real life. 20 years in the Navy. Half of that time was spent on board ships. I had a job that put me up on the signal bridge, working with the signalman, helping to identify ships and aircraft and things like that that were flying around us. My last ship, I was qualified to be what we call the conning officer. That's the guy that calls out the commands of which way you're going to go, and the helmsman responds with what direction. So I was responsible for not running into other ships. I didn't mind it too much when the captain was not on the bridge. But when he was on the bridge, boy, you double-checked, second-guessed yourself all the time to make sure that you were doing the right thing. I remember one time I called out a command to turn the ship, and the captain looked over and says, "You sure you want to do that?" I thought about it. I said, "Yes, sir." I told him what I was going to do, and he says, "All right, that's fine. I'll let you do that." I'm like, okay. The officer of the deck that was in charge of me, he just looked over at me and grinned, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think I would have done that either, but that's all right." We didn't run into anything, and we got to where we were supposed to be on time, so everybody was happy. Okay, let's take a look at our reference photo here. So, we got a crashing wave over down here, and then so let's we'll work on that on the next one here, next line. Now, the one thing that I didn't do, haven't done yet. Let's put it that way. It's not that I didn't do it, I just haven't done it yet. I wanted to define what I did with my filbert. Oh, it's over here. I used it. Okay. Need to put in the eye of our wave crash here. So, some titanium white. I'll load up a filbert brush. And should have done that first. It's all right. You can see some interesting artifacts left here by the filbert brush. I don't know if I like them or not. I'm going to blend them out just a little bit. All right. Okay, let's get the foreground put in here. So the gel medium is really starting to tack up now. And so things don't flow as smooth as they used to, but I'm taking the color into that gel medium that's underneath the Prussian blue that I used in, and I'm pushing it up, blending it up in, and to do so I'm using actually more force than you would if you were using oils. Okay, I'm going to go back to the filbert brush. Now, for some of the details and things I want to put in now, I'm actually going to go and I'm going to thin out some of this titanium white. Sometimes you need to do that because this would be the equivalent of saying, oh, I'm going to use liquid white to get a thin paint to stick on a thick paint. So I'm using the thinner in order to do that, and I've got you'll see this here shortly. Okay. Changed my mind. Not going to use the filbert. I'm going to use my script liner. So if you try any of these techniques, you'll feel what I'm feeling in how I talk about being smoother, the tacky feeling, and the blending of these, because it's much different than oils. It's just something you have to get used to. So now I've got to put a lighthouse in here. I need some rocks. I need some color, some browns, and I have the Van Dyke brown that I'm going to use, and some cadmium yellow. And if we were to go back to the reference photo, which for some reason keeps bombing out on me, you would see that we have some grass and things like that on there as well. Boy, I am making a mess today. Ugh. All right. So now when Bob Ross lays in rocks and things like that, he uses his palette knife. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I'm not a palette knife kind of guy, really, but I need to practice. And this is where the malt stick comes in handy. If I can do this without knocking my coffee over.